After recent news about scaling back, some of you might think that this is the end of the line. It started with grand ambitions, but reducing it to 2.4 kilometers feels like turning that line into just a dash. With the cancellation of the desalination plant and some contractors pulling out due to human rights concerns, it's easy to wonder if that dash will soon become a full stop. In Saudi Arabia, officials are so strict about Neom that speaking out against it can lead to people simply disappearing. So what's really going on in this giga city? Despite these challenges, some sources claim that Neom is still making progress, with one of its projects expected to launch later this year. From 2017 to 2024, we've tracked all the updates on Neom. If you're curious to uncover the real story, stay with us as we decode it all, starting with the flagship project, The Line. The Line was supposed to be a futuristic city with glass walls, designed to be the highlight of Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman's plan to reduce Saudi Arabia's reliance on oil. However, the original grand vision for The Line has been scaled back. Originally planned to stretch 105 miles, the project is now only expected to reach about 1.5 miles by 2030. The line was imagined as a long, narrow city that would eventually house around 9 million people within just 13 square miles. However, current projections suggest that fewer than 300,000 will live there by 2030. Despite this, representatives of Neom Giga City remain optimistic about the completion of this linear city. And according to the Saudi government minister, there is no change in the scale of the Neom Giga project, and described it as a long-term project with a modular design that will be developed in stages over time, meaning it will be developed in phases over time. The first phase, expected to be finished by 2030, will cover up to 1.5 miles. Chief Operating Officer Giles Pendleton also confirmed progress through a video on his media account, emphasizing that despite some media inaccuracies, significant advancements have been made, including progress in excavation, reduced piling levels, and ongoing dewatering efforts. According to Neom, the world's largest earthworks operation is underway, moving 2 million cubic meters of earth each week to build the line. Approximately 260 excavators and 2,000 trucks are working around the clock to build the city's foundations. Dennis Hickey, the line's chief development officer, highlighted the incredible energy in Saudi Arabia, noting that significant foundation work has been completed both literally and figuratively. Neom has also reported that the largest piling operation in the world is underway for the line. Last year, Mead reported that 4,500 piles had been driven as part of the foundation work, with the operation peaking at more than 60 piles driven daily. Construction is now progressing on modules 44, 45, 46, and 47 in the hidden marina. Well, according to these recent pictures shared by the Chief Operating Officer of the line, work on Neom is clearly visible, with camps popping up and infrastructure excavations revealing the true scale of the activities. Even the high-speed transportation system, the Spine, has made significant progress. The Spine is an infrastructure corridor running parallel to the line, designed to move people and goods in Neom's linear smart city, a city envisioned without cars, streets, or carbon emissions. Recently, the Spine achieved a major milestone with the completion of a 9.48 kilometers tunnel by China Railway Construction Corporation. This marks CRCC's first project in Neom. Begun in October 2021, the tunnel was constructed deep in the desert, overcoming tough geological challenges. XCMG Machinery, a leading Chinese equipment company, played a crucial role in this success. Their high-capacity drilling rigs managed deep foundations in challenging sandy conditions, completing the project ahead of schedule. This progress is a significant step forward in realizing Neom's ambitious vision. However, challenges remain. Despite these advancements, recent reports indicate that at least one contractor has begun laying off workers. Bloomberg has noted that Prince Mohammed's grand project may be scaled down based on documents they reviewed. Initially planned to cost $1.5 trillion, the project was meant to revolutionize city design. However, it has faced a lot of skepticism and criticism, especially after reports of the execution of several members of the Huaytat tribe who opposed the construction on their ancestral lands. Saudi forces were given permission to use lethal force to evict people from their homes to clear the area for the Line megacity, according to a BBC report. Colonel Rabi Al-Anetsi, a former Saudi intelligence officer, revealed to the BBC that he was part of a team tasked with forcibly removing people from villages for the construction of the line in northwest Saudi Arabia. He mentioned that lethal force was authorized against those who refused to leave. The line will be built in the Tabuk region, home to many members of the Huaytat tribe, whom the clearance order labeled as rebels. Villages like Al-Qaraiba and Sharma have been cleared or heavily damaged for the project. The Saudi government has relocated 6,000 people so far, with plans to move around 20,000 more. Several tribe members who protested have been arrested, and Abdul Rahim al-Huwaiti, who criticized the evictions online, was reportedly killed by security forces in 2020. Human rights group ALKST reported that 3 people linked to al-Huwaiti, who were forcibly removed from the Neom site, were sentenced to death by Saudi Arabia's Specialized Criminal Court on October 2nd. The UN Human Rights Council has condemned the planned executions, urging Saudi authorities to stop them. Saudi Arabia responded by denying the men were sentenced for protesting, claiming they were terrorists connected to Daesh and Al-Qaeda. AL-Qiesta also reported that 40 other villagers remain in detention following the evictions. In light of these human rights concerns, Malcolm Awe, CEO and founder of Solar Water, cancelled a $100 million contract with Neom after learning that the Saudis were bulldozing villages to make way for the megacity. Awe initially joined Neom to help build an eco-friendly city as part of Saudi Arabia's Vision 2030, which aims to reduce the country's dependence on oil and transform it into a hub for tourism and innovation. However, reports of human rights abuses, including village demolitions, led Awe to back out of the deal in 2022, even though he had already started planning some of his solar-powered desalination plants for Neom. Awe, whose company uses solar energy to desalinate water, was initially drawn to Neom's commitment to green energy and environmental sustainability. Neom planners have promoted the city, including its centerpiece project, The Line, as an eco-city running on 100% renewable energy. However, Awe believes that the city's planners are not living up to their promises, leading him to question the project's true commitment to respecting local communities and cultural heritage. Neom and the Saudi embassy in the UK declined to comment on Awe's claims. Saudi Arabia has been cracking down on public criticism of its Vision 2030 plans, including imprisoning individuals like Fatima al-Shawarbi, who was sentenced to 30 years for speaking out against the evictions on social media. German companies involved in the Neom project are also under increasing pressure due to the human rights violations associated with the development. German Foreign Minister Annalena Baerbock recently stressed that economic cooperation cannot be separated from considerations of rule of law, human rights, and freedoms. There is concern that any human rights abuses linked to Neom could also reflect poorly on German companies participating in the project, prompting calls for these companies to ensure that their involvement aligns with human rights standards. There were also reports of changing ideas for the project, budget overruns, and frequent staff changes. Some people who have worked on the project even described it as out of touch with reality. According to Bloomberg, the scaling back of the Line project happened because Saudi Arabia's sovereign wealth fund hasn't approved the overall Neom budget for 2024, likely due to declining cash reserves. Back in 2014, Saudi Arabia had a hefty $744 billion in cash reserves, but by 2024, this figure had dropped significantly to $414 billion. The government and Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman initially hoped that announcing these mega projects would draw in global investors with a plan to boost foreign direct investment to $100 billion annually by 2030. However, things haven't gone as expected. With the deadline approaching, Riyadh is taking on more financial risk to keep things on track. Oil money isn't enough anymore since crude oil is around $80 a barrel, and foreign investments are still far short of the $100 billion annual goal, reaching only $33 billion so far. However, Saudi Arabia's public debt is relatively low at 26.5% of GDP in 2023, compared to 65% in Germany and 112% in France, giving it some financial flexibility. In 2023, the Public Investment Fund was the most active fund globally. It invested $31.5 billion in 49 deals, making up a quarter of the total $124 billion invested by sovereign wealth funds. The PIF now manages over $700 billion in assets, with almost a quarter being foreign investments. As of September 2023, these investments have reduced its cash reserves to $15 billion. Recently, two major financial institutions, led by Yasser Al-Rumayyan, a close advisor to the prince, made moves to attract new investors. The biggest success was the long-anticipated secondary share sale of Saudi Aramco, which Al-Rumayyan chairs. This sale brought in over $11 billion, mostly from foreign investors. When Aramco first went public in 2019, the shares were mostly sold to local investors. But this time, foreign funds that were previously unsure about Aramco's value and low returns showed interest. The company's increased dividends and lower stock price made it more attractive. At the same time, Saudi Arabia's sovereign wealth fund, also overseen by Al-Rumayyan, raised €650 million through its first debt sale in the UK. This is part of the Public Investment Fund's strategy to diversify its capital sources and not rely on the same investors over and over again. To attract international investors, Neom has opened new offices in London and New York, aiming to build global partnerships and create business opportunities. Beyond Neom, Saudi Arabia is rolling out a series of massive projects, including a Dragon Ball theme park, a planned 2-kilometer-high tower north of Riyadh, King Salman International Airport, Mohammed bin Salman Stadium, and a large playground on the water featuring over 70 activities. These mega-projects are key to the kingdom's strategy to draw in foreign investment. Saudi Arabia has also secured over $16 billion in funding from Kuwait for various projects, including Neom. On top of that, Neom got a new $2.67 billion credit line from local banks. To boost investment, Saudi Arabia is actively reaching out to global investors. BlackRock announced it will receive up to $5 billion from Saudi's Public Investment Fund for regional investments and to set up a team in Riyadh. In April, Saudi Arabia hosted an event at Neom for international bankers, bringing representatives from 24 banks and financial institutions worldwide. PF also signed a major deal with 6 Chinese banks worth up to $50 billion. Saudi Arabia wants investors to know its ambitious Neom development is on track. They've launched an initiative called Ground X, which provides live feeds of construction sites, project deadlines, and progress updates for different Neom areas like Sindala, The Line, and Trojena. A recent job posting revealed that Ground X is focused on documenting Neom's progress. They have set up 452 time-lapse cameras, 63 live cameras, and more than 300 drone locations across Neom, capturing 2 million photos and 70,000 videos. However, the source website couldn't access the full Ground X website, as it was not publicly available at the time. The Ground X website aims to provide transparency and boost investor confidence by showing real-time progress. Neom also has a progress platform that tracks the status of each zone and its expected completion date, with screenshots available for public viewing. Despite these efforts, a $1.5 billion project to build a water desalination plant in Neom seems to have been scrapped, initially agreed upon by a consortium, including Neom's subsidiary Inoa, Japan's Itachu, and France's Veolia in December 2022. The plan was to create a desalination plant powered entirely by renewable energy. This plant was expected to provide 2 million cubic meters of water daily, around 30% of Neom's projected water needs. The plant was to be located in Oxagon, Neom's industrial zone, with the first phase scheduled for completion next year. However, sources informed Mead, a Middle East business publication, that the joint development agreement for the project had expired and was not renewed. The exact reasons for the cancellation remain unclear, and attempts to contact Inoa, Itachu, and Veolia for comments have not yet been responded to. Inoa did state that Neom's water needs had changed over the past year, leading them to adopt a phased approach to expanding capacity. The original plan included diverting brine, a major desalination waste product, to industrial projects instead of discharging it into the sea, a key environmental concern. This cancellation is a setback for Neom, especially since desalination is crucial for the city, which is being built in one of the driest and hottest parts of the world. Neom is intended to be an eco-city, operating without cars or roads and fully powered by sustainable energy. It is a central piece of Saudi Crown Prince Vision 2030, aimed at diversifying the country's economy away from fossil fuels and toward innovation, technology, and tourism. Even with recent challenges, Neom's development hasn't stopped. Their promotional videos, which are periodically released, often focus more on updates for projects other than the line. For instance, Sindala, set to launch this year, shows significant progress with many luxury hotels and leisure facilities, like a golf lawn, already visible. However, there's still no official opening date, which makes it seem unlikely that the project will meet its deadline. Right now, Neom is more focused on forming partnerships with new hotel chains rather than addressing the working conditions at the site. However, if Sindala launches this year, it could have a significant impact on Neom's overall development and potentially attract many new investors to Neom. But on the other hand, what if it fails? Only time will tell. Trojena, another of Neom's ambitious projects, is also making notable strides. The first of nearly 5,200 trucks has arrived, delivering part of the 130,000 tons of steel needed for the project. This construction is massive, involving one of the world's largest earthworks operations. So far, around 15 million cubic meters of material have been excavated, much of which is being used to fill the area. A key focus of the project is sustainability, especially in reducing CO2 emissions from cement production, which significantly contributes to global emissions. The team is working hard to decarbonize the construction process by using local materials and implementing eco-friendly practices. The project requires a huge amount of concrete, 7.3 million cubic meters to be exact. This concrete will be used for both buildings and structures, as well as for constructing dams. The process is highly efficient, with materials being blasted, crushed, and refined on site to create the perfect mix for construction. One standout feature is the dam wall, which will hold back 55 billion liters of water. The concrete for this wall will be laid continuously, like a 3D printer, over 26 months. Trojena's ski village is progressing, with 15 drill rigs working to complete the first 36 kilometers of micropiles on the mountain. Overall, the team's efforts are expected to save around 0.4 million tons of CO2 emissions, which is equivalent to saving 1 million trees. From the official videos, it seems that the Saudi kingdom is very eager to meet its own set deadline. Of course, the Asian Winter Games are also scheduled to take place in Trojena in 2029. Neom has recently signed a contract with Webuild for an exciting new project, a 57-kilometer high-speed railway along the northern coast of the Red Sea in Saudi Arabia. This railway, called the Connector South, will link Oxagon with the Line City and play a crucial role in transporting logistics from the Neom Port's logistics center to supply the line and other areas of Neom. The Neom port, set to run on renewable energy, will have the capacity to handle 12 million TEUs of cargo and offer 2 million square meters of logistics space. It will feature AI-optimized self-driving vehicles and will integrate seamlessly with the Neom network, aiming to cut travel time, reduce waiting periods, and lower pollution. The advanced center will also connect with Neom's supply chain to ensure secure storage of goods. With a total investment of SR 7.5 billion, the port is expected to open in 2025. Neom has also announced a new partnership for Oxagon with Hotel Indigo, a lifestyle destination that will open in Oxagon's first seaside residential community in 2026. As part of the prestigious IHG Hotels and Resorts family, This 2 out of 50 room hotel will feature exciting retail concepts, specialty restaurants, and cafes. It will also include wellness facilities such as a spa, pool, and a 24-hour fitness center. Additionally, Neom is introducing some new projects, but we won't be discussing them right now. For updates on these new projects, you'll have to wait for our next video. As Neom's grand vision unfolds, it's clear that there are both remarkable advancements and significant challenges ahead. While projects like Trojena and Oxygon promise exciting developments, the scaling back of the line and issues surrounding human rights and financial pressures raise important concerns. The ongoing changes and setbacks remind us that turning such ambitious plans into reality is no easy feat. What are your thoughts on the scaling down of the line and the reported challenges? How do you feel about the progress and the controversies surrounding Neom's development? We'd love to hear your opinions. Share your thoughts in the comments below.